My girlfriend gave my dog away while I was visiting my parents for the weekend. I'd had Dexter for 6 years before I met Megan, and on our second date I told her flat out, he's a package deal. She laughed and said she loved dogs. For a year she scratched his ears on my couch, posed for photos with him, signed the birthday card I taped to his $300 orthopedic bed. Then she started bringing up moving in with me. We'd need to figure out the dog situation, she kept saying. I drove 3 hours to my parents on Friday to help my dad fix some stuff around the house. Megan kissed me at the door and said, "Go. I'll check on Dexter for you." I got home Sunday around 6, and the apartment was silent. No nails clicking on the hardwood. No huge head shoving into my leg at the door. His leash was gone. His food bowl was gone. The $300 bed was gone. I called Megan, and she picked up on the second ring, sounding cheerful. "I took him to a rescue Saturday morning," she said. "Now we can finally have a real future." I asked her if she was serious. "I told them it was a joint decision," she said. I hung up and called the rescue from the parking lot. "Sir, surrenders here are final," the woman told me. "Once a dog goes to a foster home, we don't pull him back." I asked if Dexter was at a foster home. She went quiet for a second. "He was placed this morning," she said, "and the family already submitted an adoption application." I told her I was the actual owner, and I was coming in tomorrow with proof. "Bring everything you've got," she said. I sat in the director's office Monday morning with 6 years of vet records on my phone, puppy pictures, the credit card statement for the orthopedic bed, every receipt with my name on it. She scrolled for about 2 minutes. Then she looked up at me. "This is a fraudulent surrender," she said. "We're getting him back." Tuesday afternoon, they walked Dexter into the lobby, and he put his paws on my shoulders and almost knocked me onto the floor. Megan texted that week, "Can we talk? I'm sorry. I miss you." I blocked her number, and my buddy came over to help me paint the spare room and spent the afternoon teaching Dexter to bark twice at the door anytime anyone says her name. So now when somebody knocks, I just say Megan, and a 150-pound dog runs to the door and loses his mind. Dexter's still a package deal. She's the one I returned. My girlfriend gave my dog away while I was visiting my parents for the I saw dark storm clouds ahead over our whale-watching boat, but the captain turned his radio down and steered us further out to sea. Through the static, I heard the Coast Guard. "Return to shore immediately. Weather conditions are critical." It started to pour, but the captain ignored it. I've had 30 years on this water. A little rain never killed anybody, but the sky was black now, and the waves were getting stronger. A woman looked terrified. "We should go back, right?" He shook his head. "Nobody's getting a refund, so enjoy the ride." There were about a dozen of us on the boat, and he was steering us straight into the storm. People were gripping their seats. The woman stood up. "This is dangerous. We need to turn around now." The captain didn't even look back. "Sit down before you fall and sue me." A man ran to the cabinet where the life jackets were and pulled on it. "But you needed a key to unlock it." "Open this. We need the jackets." The captain patted his pocket where the key was. "You don't need them. Sit down and enjoy the ride." Then a huge wave slammed us, and water flooded across the deck. I thought the boat was going to tip over any second. I couldn't even swim. The radio kept crackling. "Vessel, respond. You are in critical danger." He shut the radio off completely. People were screaming now, soaked and freezing, and the woman grabbed his arm. "Please," he shoved her off. "One more word, and I throw you overboard myself." Then the boat tilted hard to one side, and water started pouring in faster than it could drain. I knew if I didn't do something, we were all dead. So I grabbed the fire extinguisher off the wall and swung it at the back of the captain's head. He dropped instantly. I dug the key out of his pocket and threw the cabinet open. "Everyone, grab a jacket." Then I hit the button to release the life raft, and it inflated off the side. People started climbing on. I ran to the boat's radio and yelled, "We're sinking! Send help, please!" Then jumped onto the raft as the current ripped us away from the boat, fast. I could barely see the boat anymore, and had no idea if he survived or not. The Coast Guard found us moments later, and said if we'd stayed a few minutes longer, none of us would have made it. But then the next morning, the captain washed up on the shore, with the radio clutched in his hand. 30 years on the water, and I didn't even see a single whale. I saw dark storm clouds ahead. The door quietly opened, and the loner kid from my class, John, walked into our poker night with his legs shaking. But before I could ask who invited him, my friend stood up and waved him over. He pressed a drink into John's hand and told him, "Ready to bet big?" John nodded and sat down. "I've never been invited anywhere. Thanks so much, guys." He smiled. We started playing, and all my friends immediately folded to John. "You won." They pushed the chips towards him and told him to bet bigger while cheering for him. He smiled and pushed more in while my friends refilled his glass. That's when I caught two of them flashing their cards at each other. John lost the next hand, and as I watched them do it again, my stomach dropped. They were cheating him. When John lost again, my friend clapped his shoulder. "You got this, shark. Win it back by betting more." John hesitated, but my friend instantly scoffed. "I guess you're not as cool as we thought you were." John immediately bet $50. I watched this happen for 2 hours, my hands gripping my cards so hard they crumpled. When I saw John staring at his bank account with sweat beading down his forehead, I told them to stop. They whispered back, "Bro, we're almost at $1,000. Relax, dude." They refilled his glass again, called him bad badass, and my heart sank as I watched John say, "This is the last of my college savings." He flipped his kings, but his face dropped when my friend's aces came down. He'd lost everything. He stood up, nearly in tears and wobbling. "I'm sad I lost, but I've never had this much fun. Thank you guys." He headed for the door while my friends counted his chips. I knew I couldn't let this happen, so I got up and caught him at the door. I tapped his shoulder. "I think you've still got some money left." I quickly transferred $500 of my own to his Venmo before he noticed. He sat back down, and I immediately grabbed the deck. Last hand for tonight. My friends grinned, thinking I was in on it. I shuffled the cards slowly, peeking at every card before handing it out. My friends grinned and instantly shoved everything in without blinking. "Come on, John, you all in?" John's legs shook under the table as he pushed the chips. My friends slammed their kings, but John laid 2 aces on top. His jaw dropped. I won! I won!" Their faces went pale, mouthing, "How is this possible?" while John dragged the mountain of chips to his side. He walked out grinning, richer than he came in. The door. I was flipping burgers at my son's 6th birthday when my neighbor grabbed the spatula out of my hand. "Step aside, kid. I've been doing this 30 years and nobody walks away from my grill hungry." He scraped all 4 patties into the trash that I dry brined overnight the way my dad taught me before he passed. Mason had that exact burger on that exact grill every birthday he's been alive, and he just turned 6. My wife leaned in close. "Babe, that's your dad's recipe. Go take it back." But making a scene would wreck the party worse than he already was, so I told her to let him knock himself out. He clapped his hands and turned to the whole backyard. "Folks, gather round. About to show you how a real cook feeds 30 people the best burger of their lives." He gave my seasoning a sniff and chucked the whole jar into the grass. "Salting before the sear. That's how amateurs kill a burger." So he cranked all 4 burners to the top and dropped a fresh stack of raw patties down. My chest went tight watching a stranger run his mouth over my dad's grill, but I kept it shut for Mason. Then he pointed the spatula at me. "Run grab the spare propane out of my garage, kid. A real cook's always thinking ahead." I told him this batch was already going, but he waved me off in front of everyone, so I walked across 2 yards holding his tank while he played host to my son's party. By the time I got back, he had the lid clamped down, guarding it, telling the parents about patience like he'd invented it. Mason tugged my leg and asked if the new guy made it the way I do. I didn't have an answer for him. The line of kids behind the grill kept getting longer, paper plates empty, and my son kept looking up at me like I'd let somebody take the one thing that was supposed to be ours. He let everybody stand there another 10 minutes, then raised both arms for quiet. "All right, this is how the big boys do it." He flung the lid open, except no smoke came out. The flame was dead. He cranked all 4 burners wide open and run his own tank bone dry, never once checking the fire underneath him the whole time he was lecturing. He grabbed the first patty and flipped it, black as a hockey puck on the side that caught the early heat, raw and cold in the middle where the grill quit on him. The whole yard went quiet. "It's fine, it's a sear," he said, and took a huge bite to prove it in front of all of them, then gagged and spit it back into his hand. A kid in the front laughed first, then the rest of them, then the parents. So I grabbed the spatula out of his hand. "Step aside, kid. Let me show you how it's done." I then swapped in the full tank and salted 4 fresh patties before the sear, then fed my son first on his grandfather's grill. I was flipping. I woke up one morning and didn't feel my wife Sandra next to me. I didn't think much, but when I went downstairs, I found a note on the kitchen table. "I'm leaving to go find myself. I'll be back one day, but I don't know when." Our car wasn't in the driveway, and my stomach dropped. I immediately tried calling her, but realized I was blocked, and that's when I heard our 2 crying daughters behind me. "Is mommy leaving?" My youngest held up the note. I instantly hugged them and told them no, but Sandra was already posting pictures from Hawaii. That's when I got a notification from my bank and realized she'd also taken all our savings. I gripped my head, and that night I got a second job at a gas station to make rent. I returned in the morning with sunken eyes and found my daughters huddled over their phones, crying because their mom had blocked them too. A year passed, then 2. We'd written her 100 cards, begging her to come back, but never heard a word. My daughters cried every night, but 4 years later, I met Jane. She treated my girls as her own, and when I saw on social media a picture of Sandra with her arms around another man, I decided to forget all about her. But then 8 years later, my doorbell rang. I opened it and saw her smiling at me with 2 full suitcases. "I'm back." I stared in disbelief, but she just laughed. "Did you miss me? I can't wait to make myself at home." But her smile instantly dropped when she saw Jane playing with our daughters. "Who's this bitch?" I asked Sandra if she was serious, and she gripped her head. "Oh my God, I told you in my letter I'd be back, and you go find someone else. This is my house." She went to step inside, but that's when my daughters got in her way. "We don't want you." Sandra froze and clenched her fists. "I'm your mother." But my eldest crossed her arms. "No, you stopped being our mother the day you left. Jane is our mother. You're just Sandra." I watched them throw the letter she'd left 8 years ago at her chest and felt so proud. Sandra dropped to her knees, crying, "This is so unfair. How could you do this to me?" But I just slammed the door. I woke up one morning and didn't feel my wife Sandra next to me. I didn't think much, but when I was driving through a storm to pick my son up from soccer practice, flooring the accelerator, but then I saw a man stranded on the side of the highway. His car was broken down, and he had no jacket, and I remembered my dad teaching me to always show kindness. I pulled over and looked at my son's text. "It's so cold. When are you coming?" I told myself I'd only be a minute and stepped out into the rain. But when I saw the man, his face was blue. He was shivering so hard he could barely talk. "I need a spare tire," he said, pointing at his burst front tire. I gave him my jacket and the thermos of hot tea I'd packed for my son, then ran back and grabbed my spare. He tried to take the tire, but his fingers were frozen blue and he couldn't grip it. "Can you put it on for me, please?" I couldn't believe it and looked down at my phone. My son just texted, "Please hurry, I'm gonna be sick." But I knew the man would die if I didn't help him. So I changed his tire as fast as I could, my fingers bleeding and cracking in the cold as I worked the bolts, praying my son was okay. "You're all set," I told him as I tightened the last screw and watched him climb in. I floored it the whole way to my son, and when I picked him up he was coughing and shivering. I blasted the heat and told myself everything had worked out. But 2 weeks later, an opponent kicked my son in the head during his soccer game. I instantly sprinted onto the field and scooped him up, but he wouldn't stop twitching. I carried him through the hospital doors screaming for help, but the nurse said, "Take a seat, someone will call you. My son is seizing. Please take a seat, sir." Then a door opened and a man in scrubs walked out. My eyes shot open in disbelief because it was the man I'd helped on the highway. He saw me and stopped. "You gave me your tire in that storm." He looked at my son shaking in my arms. "I'm a neurosurgeon, and that boy needs surgery now." He told the nurse to start prepping him, and they rushed him through the doors. 12 hours later, the man walked out. "He's alive. If we'd waited even another hour, your son would be dead." I started crying and ran in. My son was awake, smiling at me. The fact I'd helped a stranger is the only reason my son was alive. I was driving through a storm to pick my son up from soccer practice.
I get 30.
The cool older kids befriended me because I had a prosthetic leg, and during lunchtime they would make me take it off and hop around on my one good leg for their entertainment. But one day they got bored, and while I was hopping around on one leg, one of them named Jason walked over and swept my leg out from under me. I hit the ground hard and hurt my leg, and they laughed, and Jason threw my prosthetic at me, then walked away. That night I treated my good leg and taped as much metal to my prosthetic as I could. The next day, the older kids came up to me and told me to hop. I took my prosthetic off, and they pulled out their phones, expecting entertainment. Instead, I swung my prosthetic at Jason's kneecap as hard as I could. I heard his knee shatter, and he hit the ground. He started groaning in pain. "My knee!" And all his friends started laughing at him instead. I reattached my leg and told him, "Now you hop to the nurse's office," and walked away. The cool older kids befriended me because I had a prosthetic leg, and during lunchtime they would make me take it off. A man from animal control walked into our vet clinic with a dog that wouldn't stop growling. He set the cage down, found this dog tied to a pole on a highway. The owners abandoned it for weeks. The dog was barking aggressively at everyone, but then I saw the dog's neck. The rope cut into the neck, and the wound was infected. If we didn't treat it soon, the dog would die. My coworker laughed. "That dog isn't worth saving. I'm scheduling it to be put down tomorrow." My chest tightened. This dog gave up on humans and hated them, but I wasn't going to give up on him. I said, "No, I'm going to try to save it." To gain the dog's trust, I put my hand against the cage, but the dog bit me so hard I screamed. My coworker said, "See, it's a lost cause. It deserves to die." But I didn't want to give up. I wrapped my hand and came back an hour later. The dog growled and barked the whole time, but I came back the next morning and sat next to the cage because I still wanted him to trust me. I saw the infection was spreading. The wound was darker. I was losing time. I stared at him, and he tilted its head at me like it was trying to figure out why I hadn't left yet, unlike all the other humans in his life. Something told me to put my hand against the cage again. My heart was pounding. I thought it would bite me, but instead the dog walked over slowly and sniffed my hand. I started crying, but when I saw his wound, I knew I didn't have any time to spare. I slowly opened the cage door, and the dog backed into the corner. I put my hand out, and it came forward and sniffed it. I gently touched its head and started petting him. I could feel it trembling with fear under my hand, but it stayed and trusted me. I started putting cream on the wound. The dog whimpered, but let me treat it. I knew the infection had gone too deep, and it was probably too late. The dog stepped out of the cage for the first time, walked over to me, and put its head in my hand. The same hand it bit 3 days ago. I held it and whispered, "It's okay, you're not alone anymore." But then I felt its breathing get slower and slower. Its eyes closed. My heart broke because for the first time in his life, someone stayed, and he died feeling loved. A man from animal control walked into our vet clinic. My decision to disobey my parents that night might have been the only reason we're all still alive. I had found an abandoned puppy on my way home from school that day. It was all alone and shaking from the cold. I noticed it even had the same color of eyes as me. There was no possibility of me leaving it alone in that alley. The only problem would be my parents. Our last dog had just passed away, and they had said after we buried him that they weren't ready to get a new dog anytime soon. Still, I intended on showing them the dog the instant I got home. When I entered the room, they were discussing a burglary that happened at the house next door the night before. "Guys," I shouted, "I found this puppy on my way home from school. It was on the verge of starving. We can keep him, right?" My parents looked at each other, instantly got on the same wavelength, and shot the same disapproving look back at me simultaneously. "Absolutely not," they said in unison. "That thing will use the bathroom all over the house," said my dad. "And it will keep us up all night barking," my mom added. "And worst of all, puppies like that bite, and bite hard," my dad said with finality. "I don't care where you take it, but it's not staying here." He pointed out of the room as if giving me marching orders. I took the dog up to my room, telling my parents I would call some shelters in the morning. Once inside, I locked my door and cleared out the bottom drawer of my dresser. I laid out some newspaper and placed the puppy softly down. "I don't care what they say, boy. This will be your new home." I looked at the clock. It was already almost 11 p.m. I crashed into my bed and fell asleep almost instantly. Little did I know, at that exact moment, someone had cut the power to our security system and was already breaking into the side door. But they weren't the only ones awake and operating inside the house. The puppy I had brought home had just come down the stairs and used the bathroom all over the kitchen floor. As soon as the puppy had trotted into the next room, the intruder had broken the lock and was taking his first steps into the kitchen. He slipped in the mess that the puppy had left and slammed to the floor, knocking off several dishes from high shelves. The commotion caused the puppy to begin barking wildly. The barking alerted my parents, who came downstairs, armed to the teeth to address the situation. They flipped on the lights to see the burglar with guns already drawn on them both. The tension was so heavy, it almost crushed everyone in the room. All of a sudden, the puppy bit hard at the burglar's ankle, causing him to drop both of his guns and fall again to the floor. My parents moved in and pinned him to the ground until the police arrived and took him away. After everyone had left, I sat with my parents and looked at them both and said, "You're right, the dog did use the bathroom in the house. It did bark too loud, and it did bite. And because he did, we're all still standing here together. So, can we please keep him?" My parents didn't say anything. They just pulled both me and the puppy in for a warm family hug. My decision to disobey my parents that night might have been the only reason we're all still. I was being interrogated as a lead suspect in a murder case when the detective slammed down a file on the table. "You were the one to find the body. You called it in. You said you saw someone run out the back, but you couldn't give us a face. And you want me to believe you're innocent." I nodded slowly, and he crossed his arms. "We're going to have to do a lie detector test. And if we find out you're guilty, well, just know that the death sentence is legal here." But when the examiner clipped a cold sensor to my finger and asked, "Did you do it?" I answered, "No, I did not do it." And the machine flashed red. "Lie." I jolted up. "That's wrong. Run it again." "I didn't do it." She reset the paper, but when she asked again, she got the same answer. She folded her hands. "The machine doesn't lie, ever." The detective stopped writing and closed his folder slowly. "This goes to the evidence team tonight." I leaned forward until the straps bit into my arms. "Please, I've got a kid at home. I would never do anything to hurt her, including murder." The examiner ignored me and reached to peel the sensor off, and when we locked eyes, the color drained from my face. "Wait, the person who ran out the back door, that was you." She stared at the ground. "No, I don't think so." I turned to the detective. "You want a real reading? Put her in that chair." The examiner's pen went still. "That's not procedure." He pulled the straps off my chest and pointed at the examiner. "Sit in the chair." They strapped her into her own chair, her own sensors on her skin, her hands nowhere near the dials. The detective ran the baseline and leaned in. "Did you kill him?" She gave the same answer I did. "I didn't do it." Except this time when the lie detector flashed red, lie, it was telling the truth. The detective looked up at me. "I guess you really are innocent." I was being interrogated as a lead suspect in a murder case when the detective slammed down a file on the table. "You were the one to find the body. I threw a paper airplane. The chef slammed the plate down so hard sauce sprayed across my apron. "What?" I was doing scuba with 80 kids from my new school when my parents and grandma pulled into the driveway. I completely froze because this secret party was my one shot at being popular in my new school, and they were home early. I jumped off the table so fast I nearly rolled my ankle. My mom walked in with my dad behind her, and their heads immediately turned to a girl throwing up in the new houseplant and a kid peeing in the hallway corner. I screamed, "Alexa, stop the music!" My dad raised a finger, and everyone went still. "The party can keep going, under one condition." I nodded so hard my neck hurt. I was ready to do anything. doing? He pointed outside. Grandma's in the car. Tonight, she parties. With all of you. My eyes widened because I had no idea why my parents wanted my grandma to party with a bunch of high schoolers. Before I could say anything, a chant started near the couch. Grandma! Grandma! I went to open the front door, and my 4'8" grandma immediately walked in wearing thick sunglasses, a crop top, and a jean skirt. Grandma, what the? She handed me her tin. Hold my cookies. She shook the nearest kid's hand like she was running for mayor. Doris, you can call me D. She pulled the aux out of the DJ kid's hand and started playing Drake. Finally, some good shit. I walked up to my mom. Mom, what is going on? She whispered. She sold her house yesterday. She'd spent 50 years in one town. Her voice went soft. With Grandpa gone, we couldn't let her first night with us be a quiet one. By midnight, she was up on my kitchen table with 80 kids screaming, D, D, instead of my name. 3 weeks of lunch alone, and now the whole school knew exactly who I was. D's grandson. I was riding in the back seat with my dad when a cop car stopped us. My chest instantly went cold because we had a huge bag of white powder under the seat, and I knew this meant Dad would be shot or taken to jail forever. I grabbed Dad's arm and screamed, "Run!" I tried to open the door, but he locked it and said, "Relax, son, it's just a stop," and rolled his window down. My legs trembled as the cop leaned in. I knew I needed to do whatever it took to keep Dad free, so I immediately yelled, "My dad didn't do anything. Take me instead." I held my hands out to be cuffed, but the cop just laughed at me. "I'm only talking to your dad." I felt sick because I remembered what only talking in mafia movies meant. I grabbed the bag of white powder from under the seat and held it up. "It was me, officer. This is mine, not my dad's." The cop adjusted his hat and immediately told my dad, "Sir, can you step out of the vehicle?" My dad looked at me with a clenched jaw and angry wide eyes, then reached for the door handle. That's when I lost it. I screamed, "No!" and grabbed his shirt with tears in my eyes, but he pulled my hand away. I panicked and looked at the center console, then realized I only had one option left if I wanted to save my dad. In one swift motion, I unbuckled my seatbelt and leaped onto Dad's lap. I pushed the gear stick forward and rammed the accelerator before he could react. The car took off and Dad yelled, "What are you doing?" I replied, "Saving us," but when I swerved, I wasn't quick enough. Our car rammed into the officer's cruiser, destroying his trunk and bumper. The bag of powder exploded and covered everything. I stared ahead with my hands on the wheel, and Dad pried them off the gear stick. "Do you know what that white stuff was?" I shook my head, and he told me to taste it. My eyes widened as I licked my hand. "It's flour? It's flour, son, not anything else," my dad yelled. "Now I'm actually going to jail because of you." He stepped out, and I saw the cop pulling out handcuffs. I panicked and ran towards the officer. "Take me instead." I'm walking through a street in Vietnam on holiday when I notice a little kid eating Doritos, but when I look closer, I drop to my knees because something is seriously wrong. His mom is next to him on her phone, an old man is feeding pigeons, and nobody sees the covered-up landmine under the kid's shoe, set to explode the second he lifts his foot. I rush over and crouch slowly so I don't scare him.
Me and my husband came home from our honeymoon and saw our entire living room looked different. There was a new couch, new curtains, new table, and when I went upstairs, a man I'd never seen was installing a new shower. I ran down confused and saw my mother-in-law. She said, "Surprise, I redecorated everything. Your old stuff was just so dated." I looked around and everything was in bright floral designs she loved and knew I hated. She had actually redesigned my entire home. I awkwardly thanked her and asked how much this cost, but she replied, "Oh, I didn't pay for it." I instantly checked our joint account and saw $12,000 were missing. My mother-in-law said, "You wouldn't have used that money for anything good anyway." I was furious and wanted to explode, but I just smiled and said thank you. When she left, I saw our old furniture in the garage, and me and my husband came up with an idea. We bought my mother-in-law tickets for a solo weekend getaway as a thank you, and when she left, we drove to a junkyard and loaded our car with the ugliest, most broken furniture we could find. We put all the broken chairs, destroyed tables, and cracked mirrors everywhere inside her home. Her entire house was cluttered top to bottom because we didn't move any of the original furniture. Then, we waited for her to get back. When she walked in, she saw the mess and her jaw dropped. I came around the corner and said, "Surprise, I redecorated everything." She didn't have any words left and walked over to her old couch surrounded by old broken drawers. But when she sat on it, the couch fell from under her. You see, we'd also sabotaged her existing good furniture, unscrewing bolts so the couch collapsed, taking out springs from the bed, and more. She stood up red in the face and screamed, "I'm taking back every piece of furniture I bought you." But I just shrugged. "Yeah, about that. We sold it all. That money was ours anyway." Her jaw dropped, and I walked out of the house, leaving her in what looked like a garbage dump with no good furniture left. Me and my husband came home from our honeymoon. My boyfriend's phone lit up on the nightstand with a Tinder notification, and when I opened the app, I saw his bio said he was single and looking for something real. Before I could keep snooping, I heard his footsteps outside our bedroom, so I put his phone down and acted normal when he walked in. He told me he was heading to work, so I kissed him goodbye and said I love you, but I was already planning how to get him back. When the front door closed, I downloaded Tinder and made a fake profile using my friend Carly's photos. I swiped until his face came up, and the second we matched, he texted me, "Do you believe in love at first swipe?" I gagged, but typed back a winky face, and we texted for hours. And so he came home with a grin on his face, then sent Carly a message about how the two of them had this incredible connection he hadn't felt in years, all while I was sitting next to him on the couch. I kept my cool and didn't say anything, but after 4 days, I texted him as Carly, asking when we were going to meet. "How about coffee this afternoon?" he asked, and so I suggested a place across town, and drove there when it was time for our date. I parked across the street, and he showed up 10 minutes early, but I let him sit there for 20 before texting him, "I just saw you through the window, and you're way uglier than I expected. I have standards, so I'm leaving." His phone lit up, and I watched his face collapse as he read the message, and then he went to his car and cried for 15 minutes before driving home. I beat him home, and he walked in with red eyes and dragged himself to the bedroom. I smiled, then followed him in and sat on the bed. "We need to break up. I'm not attracted to you anymore." Tears formed in his eyes. "You can't just say that out of nowhere," he cried. "I'm sorry, but I'm not attracted to you, and that's not going to change." He sobbed harder, and I said, "You should probably start looking for a new place." My boyfriend's phone lit up on the nightstand with a Tinder notification.
Bro, I've been seeing people.
Me and my son were in the airplane bathroom when I tried to open the door, but my hand wouldn't move. Liam was kicking his heel against the wall the way he did on every flight when we were in the bathroom together. I tried again, but my entire body was paralyzed. Something was wrong with me, and I couldn't tell him. I tried again, and my hand still wouldn't move. Someone started knocking on the door, soft at first, then harder, then a fist that didn't stop. I tried my best to at least move my mouth to scream for help, but my body refused to move. "Mommy," Liam said, but my head wouldn't turn to look at him. I tried to say his name, and my mouth wouldn't work. My body started shaking, and I couldn't make it stop. The edges of my vision went black, and the little mirror above the sink started to disappear. "Mommy, mommy, mommy, what's wrong?" Liam's voice climbed each time. A woman started shouting through the door, "What is wrong with you in there? Some of us need to use the bathroom." The lock turned from outside, and the door slid open. Her eyes hit my face, and the shouting stopped. "Oh my God, can you hear me?" She told the flight attendant without taking her eyes off me. "Active stroke, female, 40s, get this plane on the ground so we can save her life." She got me out of the stall and laid me on my side on the galley floor. She kept her hand on my shoulder until we landed. I'd had a stroke at 35,000 feet, and she was a doctor flying home from a conference. She rode in the ambulance holding Liam's hand the whole way. I survived with some weakness on my left side. The doctors said another 20 minutes in the air, and I wouldn't have survived. Every time we take a flight, Liam asks, "Is the angry lady who saved you flying with us today?" Me and my son were in. I caught my husband sneaking out of bed in the middle of the night and coming home at 5 a.m. with woman's jewelry in his pocket. I pointed at it. "Whose jewelry is this? This isn't mine." He looked nervous, like I caught him doing something bad. "None of your business. Go back to bed." He dismissed me entirely and walked away smiling ear to ear. I knew he was hiding something, and I was sure the jewelry was from another woman, and he was cheating on me. So I went back to bed and came up with the perfect plan to find out the truth. The next day, I bought him a fancy new smartwatch and surprised him with it. I told him it's because I love him. He was thrilled and put it on, but what he didn't know was that while setting it up, I secretly turned on location tracking, synced his health data to my phone, and made myself his emergency contact, so I'd be able to see where exactly he went. And that same night, he tiptoed out of bed again, thinking I was asleep. An hour later, my phone buzzed. A notification from the watch. His heart rate was climbing, and the watch pinned his location at a house in a fancy neighborhood. My stomach turned because he was at another woman's house. I grabbed my keys to drive over there and catch him in the act. But on the way there, an emergency alert flashed on my screen. His heart rate had spiked to dangerous levels, and the watch had auto-dialed 911. My eyes widened. What was he doing? I slammed on the gas and sped to that house. I pulled up and jumped out, ready to kick him in his balls. But as I stormed to the house, the front door burst open, and men in black ski masks came pouring out, carrying bags. I gasped. They spotted me and aimed their guns right at me. I threw my hands up, screaming. Sure, I was about to die, wondering if they already had killed my husband. But then I noticed it. On one of their wrists was the exact smartwatch I'd given my husband. I stuttered, "Wait, is that you?" The robber froze, then slowly pulled off his mask. My jaw dropped. It was my husband. He wasn't cheating, he was robbing houses. And the watch had called 911 the second his heart spiked mid-robbery. Sirens screamed down the street, and the cops swarmed in. As they threw their hands up, the duffel bags hit the ground, and women's jewelry spilled out across the grass. I caught my husband sneaking out of bed in the middle of My dad put $20 on my table every time I studied for an exam and told me to use it for a Snickers and a Red Bull. He swore that back in college he only passed exams if he had Snickers and a Red Bull beforehand and failed if he didn't. I laughed and just pocketed the money. But when I got into medical school and failed my first 3 exams, he put $20 on my table, and I thought, screw it. 30 minutes before my next exam, I FaceTimed him with a Red Bull and Snickers. He genuinely pumped his fists, and 4 days later, when my professor handed my paper back and my jaw dropped, 93, I immediately called him and shouted, it worked. But when he picked me up that afternoon to go celebrate, I suddenly got extremely dizzy. Dad, I don't feel so good. But when I looked over, he was also swaying behind the wheel. My vision blurred and I blacked out. I woke up in a hospital bed with my dad also in a bed next to me. I was about to ask why we were here when a doctor wrapped a sleeve around both our arms. You two have genetically low blood pressure. I recommend constantly having sugar or else your brain won't be able to stay alert. I looked at her and suddenly it clicked. Dad, I know why we passed the exams. All the caffeine and sugar from the Snickers and Red Bull raised our blood pressure to normal levels so we could concentrate better. It was never the Snickers and Red Bull. Dad looked at me for a long time. Nah, it's still the Snickers and Red Bull. My dad put $20 on my table every time I studied for an exam and told me to use it for a Snickers and a Every night at 8:30, my 6-year-old marched into my bathroom, handed me my toothbrush, and said, 2 minutes. Maisie brushed beside me at the sink with the focus of a tiny, deadly serious dentist, never taking her eyes off the clock. She'd started the week after we buried her dad, 4 months back. Bedtime had always been his job because I worked late, so when she suddenly needed me at the sink, I figured it was grief. I just needed to know why, so I could help her. So while we brushed, I started asking gently, are you sad about Daddy? Is something scaring you? She frowned at me like I'd said something bizarre. I just don't want you to get cavities, she said through a mouthful of toothpaste. Her teacher called me that week, half laughing. Maisie gave an 11-minute presentation on flossing today. Nobody asked her to. I took her to the doctor, sure something was wrong, but he just checked her over and shook his head. She's perfectly healthy. Whatever started this, it isn't her teeth. She started checking that my toothbrush was wet every night, so she'd know I hadn't faked it. One night, I was too tired and tried to skip it, and Maisie broke down sobbing and grabbed my hand. Mom, please, we have to brush together. A few nights later, we were on the couch when a toothpaste commercial came on. Brushing alone is not enough to prevent cavities. Maisie sat straight up and pointed at the TV. That's what Daddy always said when we brushed together. Brushing alone is not enough. I dug my nails into my palm to keep from crying. I never knew her dad had brushed his teeth with her every single night while I was at work. She wasn't doing any of this for cavities. With him gone, she was making sure that neither of us ever brushed alone. I decided not to tell her the commercial only meant she needed to floss. Now I'm the one who hands her the toothbrush at 8:30 and says 2 minutes. My 7-year-old son was playing with his Bop It toy from the yard sale. Twist it! He twisted it, and I laughed until it said, take a $100 bill out of your mom's purse. Steal it. I rubbed my eyes in shock. Why was a toy telling my son to steal? My son came running into the kitchen and reached his hand into my purse. Dean, what the hell was that? Dean took out the $100 bill and shrugged. It's just a game, Mommy. I grabbed the toy out of his hand and bopped it in the middle. It spoke again. Now bring the money to 45th Street. Come alone. Do not tell your mom. Bring it. Dean tugged my sleeve. Mom, pretend you didn't hear that. I don't want to lose the game. I grabbed my keys because we were going to find out exactly who was behind this. Then let's go win, baby. I'll drive you. We got in the car, and when I pulled onto 45th Street, there was a line of kids clutching Bop Its and fistfuls of bills. My eyes widened because I realized they'd all been scammed just like my son. We got out to follow the line, and my grip tightened on Dean's shoulder because it led straight to the same yard sale we'd bought the Bop It from. I pulled my son behind a truck and dialed 911 while the man patted a kid on the head as he took his money. Good job, buddy. You won the game. Come back at the same time next week. When 2 squad cars rolled up, the man raised both hands with a big, friendly smile. Officers, it's a yard sale. Kids love toys. Then a cop lifted the garage door behind him, and there it was, a whole wall of Bop Its that had been taken apart, sitting beside stacks of cash. He'd been rigging the toys with speakers before he sold them, so every kid who bought one got tricked into giving him money. They cuffed him against his own folding table. Dean tugged my sleeve, and the 100 bill was still crumpled in his fist. Mom, did I lose the game? I kissed his head. No, baby, you ended it. My 7-year-old son was playing with his Bop It toy from the yard sale. Twist it! He twisted it, and I laughed until it said, take a $100 bill out of your mom's purse. Steal it. I rubbed my eyes in shock. Why was a toy telling my son to steal? My son came running into the kitchen and reached his hand into my purse. Dean, what the hell was that? Dean took out the $100 bill and shrugged. It's just a game, Mommy. I grabbed the toy out of his hand and bopped it in the middle. It spoke again. Now bring the money to 45th Street. Come alone. Do not tell your mom. Bring it. Dean tugged my sleeve. Mom, pretend you didn't hear that. I don't want to lose the game. I grabbed my keys because we were going to find out exactly who was behind this. Then let's go win, baby. I'll drive you. We got in the car and A fat kid fell through the sky and landed on my spine. I was crossing the road when a woman driving 80 miles over the speed limit came to a sudden stop, just inches away from my body. Her son instantly ejected from the seat. When he landed on me, I heard my spine crack and I couldn't feel the lower half of my body. His mom ran out of the car and scooped him up. He cried, "My leg hurt when I fell on her, mommy. Tell her not to do it again." I was in so much pain that tears started streaming down my face. "Please, can someone call an ambulance?" His mom crossed her arms. "You hurt his leg, he hurt your back. We're even, and we're not paying for any medical bills. We're driving to the ER." They started walking to their car, and I knew they were going to leave me. I tried to force my feet to move so I could stand, but more pain shot up my body. I screamed, "Siri, call 911," and my Siri responded, "The ambulance is on their way. Please stay put." The woman had just turned her engine back on when we heard sirens in the distance. She pressed down on her accelerator, but she'd driven in the wrong direction and braked to a stop in front of the ambulance. Her son shot over the front seat and starfished into the windshield, making the same cracking sound that my spine made. He slid down the glass, pointing at her. "You did it again! Tell yourself not to do it again, mommy!" She'd launched her own kid twice in 10 minutes, and this time, an ambulance crew watched her do it. A paramedic was strapping a brace on my neck when she spun on me. "This is your fault!" I gave her a thumbs up from under the neck brace. "Don't worry, we're even now." A fat I walked into my house and instantly rolled my eyes because there was a hole in my roof I'd never seen, and I had no idea how it got there. It was so small, I wasn't even going to fix it. But that night, while I was sleeping, I woke up to water pouring on my face because it was raining. I called a contractor in the morning and stood outside tapping my foot, but when he stepped out of his truck, my jaw dropped because he was at least 400 pounds. He barely glanced up at the hole in my roof before waving his hand. "That little thing? I'll have it patched in 10 minutes. This is easy." He leaned his ladder against the house and started climbing like he'd done it 1,000 times. But something about the way the ladder creaked under his weight made my stomach turn, so I climbed up behind him to keep an eye on things. He walked right up to the hole and took out his tools, but the roof was already bending. "Are you sure this roof can hold you? You know, because of how heavy your tools are and everything?" I tried finding a way to phrase it nicely, but he put his bucket of cement down and got in my face. "What are you trying to say? I've been doing this for 20 years. This roof is solid." He stomped his foot down to prove it, and that's when it happened. My roof cracked open right under him. I watched in horror as this 400-pound man crashed on my living room floor stomach first. He laid there flat and not moving, while I stood on the edge of the brand new crater in my roof. I wasn't even going to fix it. Now the hole was 10 times as big. I walked into my house and instantly rolled my eyes because there was a hole in my roof I'd never seen, and I had no idea how it got there. It was so small, I wasn't even going to fix it. But that night, while I was sleeping, I woke up to water. I was walking out of the store when an old man on a red mobility scooter rolled up next to me and asked if he could carry my groceries. I told him no thanks and started walking home. I shifted my grocery bag to my other hand, slipped my wallet into my back pocket, and clenched my keys between my fingers like my mom taught me. When I glanced back half a block later, he was still rolling behind me with that little basket up front. I walked faster. The scooter matched my pace. I had no idea what this old man wanted from me, but it couldn't be good. I kept glancing back the whole walk home, and every time he was still there with the scooter humming behind me. I took my usual left turn, and he took the same left. A block later, I turned onto Walnut, and so did he, and my chest tightened. Who was this guy? Michael Myers? I was full-on speed walking now, looking back every few seconds, but I couldn't lose the hum of the scooter. Every true crime podcast I'd ever listened to started playing in my head. I dropped the grocery bag and sprinted. I cut through somebody's yard and looped around the block with my heart pounding. When I finally turned onto my street, he was already there at the far end with my front door halfway between us. I ran. I burst inside, slammed the door, locked it, and pressed my back against it. My hands were shaking so hard I couldn't steady them. Outside, the hum got louder until it stopped right in front of my apartment. 3 slow knocks. I crawled to the peephole and looked through it. The old man was holding something up in one hand. It took me a full 5 seconds to realize it was my wallet. I checked my back pocket. Empty. I slowly opened the door. "You dropped this in the parking lot," he said. I tried to catch up, but these scooters don't go very fast. I took the wallet with both hands, too stunned to say anything except thank you. He nodded and started turning the scooter around, then paused. "You should be
Today, a game was just announced.
I walked into school with my new platform shoes, and my classmate Darren instantly pointed at them. "Hey, can we swap? Those look so cool." I told him no because one of my legs is shorter than the other, and these shoes are custom built so I can walk around pain-free. Darren snarled and took off his shoes, but mine light up. "You'll be fine." I told him no and walked away. But during lunch, I felt a sharp pain in my foot. I took off my shoe to see what was wrong, and that's when Darren grabbed my shoe. "If I can't have your shoes, then neither can you." He threw them down the hill before I could stop him. I watched the reason I could walk pain-free tumble tumble down and land somewhere deep in a dirty bush. I dropped to the floor crying, but then Darren gripped his head. "Oh my god, one of your legs is actually shorter. That's so funny." He took out his phone and started taking pictures, and that's when I snapped. I stood up, clenched my fists, and told him, "Since you threw my shoes, you can go find them." I pushed him, and he went flying down the hill. I watched him tumble into the same dirty bush and clutched my stomach laughing. I was still on the ground rolling when Darren walked out of the bush, now crying because his arms and face were cut from the thorns. He still didn't have my shoe, but he immediately ran and told the teacher. But when she marched up the hill and I explained what happened, her face instantly went hard. She turned to Darren and told him, "You know she needs this shoe to walk, and you still threw it away, so you're gonna go find it." She pointed at the bushes so fast, Darren didn't even have time to protest. He crawled back into the thorns on his hands and knees, and I watched him dig through the leaves smirking. He came out with my shoe an hour later. I put it back on. The funny thing was, I saw where the shoe was the whole time. I just chose to let him crawl around in the bush until he found it. I walked in. A lawyer in a $3,000 suit slid his glass of wine back at me and told me he wasn't paying for garbage. He'd swirled it once and made a face like he'd licked a battery. I can taste the difference between real French wine and the cheap junk you scam tourists with. "Get me your wine guy." We didn't have a wine guy. He grabbed my wrist before I could turn. "Sweetheart, I drink wine that costs more than your rent. When I say a bottle is garbage, the right answer is yes, sir. So go to the back, bring me what you keep for people who actually know wine, and no tricks. I have a $400 nose. I'll know." I wiped the rim of the same bottle he just sent back, poured it into a fancy glass pitcher, and brought it out on a shiny silver tray. "This is our special bottle, sir. We don't open it without the manager's okay, but I made an exception." He swirled it, sniffed it like he was diffusing a bomb, and closed his eyes. Heads turned. "Now, this is what real wine tastes like. A real wine guy knows in 2 seconds." He waved me over. "Notice the smoothness now. 15 years of training, and you taste the difference between real wine and grape juice with a fancy label. Charge me extra for it. Put another bottle on the bill to take home." I charged him for 2 bottles. He shook my hand on the way out and slipped me $100. "You've got a real future in this business, sweetheart." I waited until the door closed. Same bottle, same wine. The $400 nose just paid $400 more for it. I poured the last glass for table 4. On the house, from the gentleman in the suit. A lawyer in a $3,000 suit slid his
using Photoshop to make package.
On my first day in prison, I saw my bunkmate shaving her legs with a piece of cardboard. I had no money in my commissary, so I pulled out a thread from the uniform and walked towards her. "I'll thread all the hairs on your body in exchange for ramen and a Snickers." She handed it over before I finished talking. "Girl, you're like really good. Wait till everybody hear about this. Just don't let the COs catch you with it." Right after I was done, a woman with the driest face I'd ever seen showed up at my cell. You know how to do makeup? I'll give you spicy Doritos and canned octopus." She excitedly jumped in front of me, and I rubbed cherry lip balm across a magazine page till the ink bled into the wax, then painted her lips and cheeks. She giggled. "So what you locked up for? Being too good at makeup or something?" I smiled sadly. "I'm not supposed to be here." She just shrugged because that's what everyone in prison says. When I was done, she looked in the mirror and smiled. "Girl, that's perfect." I stepped out of my cell to look for the next customer, but I was faced with an officer holding his baton. But he glanced down the hall and lowered his voice. "My wife's visiting Sunday. Can you make me look, presentable?" I did his brows for $10 cash, and after that, the guards stopped pretending to care. They paid to skip the line and smuggled me real makeup tools from the outside so I could get even better at beauty. When I finally saved enough money to bail myself out of prison, I counted it out and posted it myself. Now I thread brows at a real salon instead of a prison cell. On my first day in prison, I saw my bunkmate. My son was in a school karate contest with a disabled kid, and he flexed his biceps to the crowd. "Who wants to see me win?" Half the school was chanting his name, and his opponent Sam limped onto the mat, one arm curled against his chest. I pushed down the bleacher steps, ready to drag my son off that mat myself. My son Cody bounced on his toes and cupped a hand to his ear. "Who wants to see me take him down?" The gym roared, and even the teachers were laughing behind their clipboards. A parent chaperone stuck her arm out to stop me from going any further. "They're focused. Don't try to disturb them." Sam planted his good arm into a fighting stance, and the referee dropped his hand between them. "Fight!" The crowd got impatient. "Come on, Cody!" But Sam stepped inside his guard, swung his good arm, and cracked Cody across the jaw so hard the sound echoed. Cody hit the mat flat on his back and stayed down. The referee lifted Sam's arm. I guess we have a winner." The crowd clapped lazily, but I was cheering and whistling at the top of my lungs. Sam was grinning ear to ear, looking happier than I'd ever seen him. And when Cody ran out to the water fountain, I chased after him. "What the hell is wrong with you? I didn't raise you like that." He put his hands on my shoulders. "Mom, I let him win." My jaw dropped and he continued. "I was always gonna let him win. I just hyped the crowd to make sure it felt real when he did." Behind him, the same kids who chanted Cody's name were now crowding around Sam, lifting his arm like a champion. I didn't need to find out if I raised him right. He'd been showing me the whole time. My Expedia It was my first day as the captain's assistant on a boat tour when I went below deck and saw water spraying through a crack in the bottom of the boat. My heart raced as I sprinted up and grabbed the captain's arm. "Sir, there's a leak. We need to evacuate." But he rolled his eyes. "Relax, rookie. This boat always leaks a little. I've done this 1,000 times." I wanted to believe him, but the deck was packed with families, little kids in life vests eating ice cream, miles from shore. And when I looked back down the stairs, the water had already swallowed the bottom steps, and I knew this boat would sink in minutes. "Please, we have to turn back." But he shoved me aside and gunned the engine toward a shortcut. I'm not ruining my schedule over a little puddle. But then the boat slammed over a bed of rocks, and I heard a crash from below. I ran down to check, and the original crack had split into a gaping hole, water pouring in faster than before. The floor tilted so fast, a little girl slid past me screaming, "Mommy, we're sinking!" I ran back up to the wheel, where the captain stood frozen, so I grabbed the radio myself. "Mayday, we're sinking 2 miles out. Send help now." Cold water surged up over my ankles, and the second it hit the captain's feet, his face went white and he lost it. "I'm scared of drowning. Every man for himself." He tore the radio from my hands, grabbed a life raft, and shoved past me so hard the steering wheel snapped off its mount. I yelled, "You can't leave us!" But he'd already jumped, and it was just me, a broken wheel, and a boat full of crying families going under. We had maybe a minute before we went under, so I slammed the emergency lever, and the life rafts burst open along the rails. The water was at my knees as I dragged every family up out of it and shoved them in. But by the time I went back and grabbed the broken wheel, the water was at my waist and freezing, but I forced it back onto its mount. I steered quickly toward the shore as it rose to my chest, and the boat started sinking under me. Then the boat hit the shallow bottom and stopped, safe, as the Coast Guard raced in to help families from my mayday. But out in the waves, the captain was tangled in the raft he'd stolen, going under, screaming, "Help me, I'm drowning." I dove in and dragged him back onto shore. "You've done this 1,000 times, and a rookie had to save your ship and your life." It was my first day as the captain's assistant on a... The kid from next door stepped on the gas pedal of his white truck and rammed straight through my dad's fruit produce stand. Fruit and wood went flying across the lot, but none of us were surprised. You see, my dad built that stand the year my daughter was born, and every year the kid would come and smash it. We tried to stop it by standing in front of the truck, but it never worked. But the stand only cost $200 to rebuild, so all 3 of us rebuilt it together every year. But everything changed when my dad got sick. The last time he came to see the stand, he was so sick he could barely stand, and he was leaning on my arm. I guided him to sit in a folding chair, and he watched my daughter drive the nails in herself. He passed away 3 weeks later. After the funeral, my daughter climbed up on a milk crate with a paintbrush and wrote "Grandpa" across the top board, one shaky letter at a time. The next morning, I heard the boy coming again. I screamed, "Please, no! My dad is dead now, and this is all we have left of him." But he smirked, stepped on the gas pedal, and floored it. Boards went flying. He stuck his head out the window. "Build it stronger next time." My daughter watched her grandpa's name skid across the pavement. Enough was enough. That night, I drove to the hardware store. I came out with a 5-gallon bucket, a bag of quick-set concrete mix, and a steel pipe. I spent all night pouring concrete into a bucket, sticking a strong steel post in it, and letting it dry for a week. Then, me and my daughter built the wooden stand around this super strong base. She climbed back up on the milk crate and painted Grandpa across the top board again. We sat on the curb across the lot and waited. That afternoon, the kid came in his truck. The truck swung wide, lined up, and floored it. But as soon as he hit the produce stand, the smirk was wiped off his face. His truck crashed into the cement. The glass of his windows cracked, and the truck started folding in on itself. Steam rose from the hood. The kid kicked his door open and stumbled out, staring at the bumper crumpled around the steel post. The wooden boards had splintered off around the base. Grandpa was still painted across the top, untouched. My daughter looked at the kid. "We took your advice and built it stronger." The kid from next door stepped on the gas pedal of his white truck and
My car is in need of a reset, so I've got 15 minutes, and luckily I went to Halfords the other day, so I've got everything I could need to clean the inside of this car. These microfiber cloths I can use for absolutely everything. The aircon cleaner makes my car feel so fresh. 5 minutes left to use the pressure washer and my car is clean. Get yourself to Halfords because it has all the car cleaning essentials we need. My car is in need of a reset, so I've got 15 minutes, and luckily I went to Halfords the other day, so I've got everything I could need to clean the inside of this car. These microfiber cloths I can use for absolutely everything. The aircon cleaner makes my car feel so fresh. 5 minutes left to use the pressure washer and my car is clean. Get yourself to Halfords because it has all the car cleaning essentials we need. My car is in need of a reset, so I've got 15 minutes, and luckily I went to Halfords the other day, so I've got everything I could need.
I surprised my best friend with a birthday cake. "Happy birthday." Faye slapped me across the face. "You're the worst friend I've ever had." I held my cheek in shock, wondering why she would say that. "If it wasn't for you, everyone would love me. But because you always whisper bad things about me in people's ears after I talk to them, they don't like me. It's not fair. I'm going through a lot right now." I was extremely sad because I hadn't been talking bad about her. You see, whenever Faye spoke, she was extremely rude. So I would whisper in people's ears about how she was going through a lot and convince them to forgive her. And instead of thanking me, she was was getting mad at me. Okay, I won't whisper in people's ears anymore. She was about to find out exactly how many people hated her. As everyone arrived at Faye's party, I watched Faye walk up to a girl in our class and start pinching her skin. Wow, I've never seen a girl with so many fat rolls wear a dress so tight. I love your confidence. Usually, I would swoop in and remind everyone that Faye was going through a lot and needed forgiveness, but now I was just watching it happen. Our classmate looked disgusted and walked away to talk shit about her at her own party. I saw her talking to someone else. No offense. A seagull ripped my sandwich out of my hands mid-bite, and when it landed on the boardwalk, I swear I saw it smiling at me. I clenched my fists because I hadn't eaten all day just to save room for it. I jabbed a finger at him. You just started a war. The next day, I came back to the same bench with a newly made, fresh, impeccable sandwich. I opened up the foil and took a whiff of my creation. Beautiful. But as soon as I took a bite into the sandwichy goodness, my arch nemesis snatched the whole thing. I jolted up to give him the finger, and he pooped on my coat. I wiped it off with one napkin. Oh, it's on. That night, I stood at my kitchen counter and built the most beautiful sandwich of my life. Turkey stacked high, fresh red tomatoes in the middle, and extra mayo on both slices. I folded one special ingredient into the middle, wrapped it up, and held it to the sky like a soldier raising his knife before war. The next morning, I sat on the same bench, held the sandwich up, and unwrapped the foil slowly. Wow, I cannot wait to eat this beautiful sandwich. It would be such a shame if a flying creature stole it and ate it. 3 seconds later, my enemy took the bait, ripped it from my hand, and flew it straight to his crew on the pier to show off. The second his beak tore the bread open, the whole thing exploded into a cloud of pink glitter. It blasted his face, his wings, and every friend next to him, and the mayo made sure it was glued to every feather. He'd finally stolen the one sandwich I made just for him. His crew started squawking, all extremely angry because he'd gotten glitter on all of them. The biggest one reared back and smacked him clean across the head with a wing. I pulled my real sandwich out of my bag, took a huge bite, and this time I was the one smiling at him. A seagull ripped my sandwich out of my hands mid-bite, and when it landed,
I get 30 RBX every.
I was picking up the dirty dishes in my daughter's room when I saw the note on top of the food. I'm sorry, Mom. My heart pounded because I didn't know what she meant. I turned the note over. I'm done fighting. That's when I noticed her leukemia medication pill bottles were missing. Had my daughter taken her own life? I knew I needed to find her, so I grabbed the drawing pad she left the note in, and I immediately ran to my car. But where was she? I tried driving to her school and drove 50 miles over the speed limit. But when I arrived, the school was already closed. Everyone had left. I started to cry because I didn't know if my daughter was dead or alive. I decided to pick up the notebook and flick through the pages to look for clues. On the third page, there was an elaborate drawing of a bridge nearby. Is that where she was? I turned the car around and drove to the bridge. When I got there, I saw her on the sidewalk leaning against the guardrail of the bridge. Eleanor! I screamed as I ran over. Eleanor turned around to me as I hugged her tightly. Mom, what are you doing here? I rubbed my hand down her back and started crying with relief. Eleanor, what are you doing here? Were you planning on ending your life? Eleanor pulled back slightly. Mom, no, I was here to toss my leukemia medicine into the lake. I was extremely confused because I didn't expect this answer, and I still didn't understand what was going on. But why? You need them, Eleanor. Eleanor just smiled up at me. Because the doctor called. I'm in cancer remission. I left the note behind because this was something I had to do by myself. I thought you wanted to end your life. She shook her head. Hell no. Nothing can take me out. The shock and relief made me pull her back into my arms and squeeze tightly. I was picking up the dirty food supply planes finally flew over our town in Syria, and I weakly reached my hands to the sky. Alhamdulillah! Mom shook out our rice sack and kissed my head. We haven't eaten in 2 days. It's important to get as much food as possible. I bounced my brother on my hip. Listen, food planes fly low and slow. That's how you know it's food and not a bomb. But as the planes got closer, they were screaming, fast and high, and the black things falling out of it had no parachutes. I screamed, "The planes are too fast! Those are bombs! Run!" I grabbed Mom's arm and we ran as the field exploded behind us. If we didn't find food today, my brother wasn't going to make it. We ran until the bombs stopped and hid under a collapsed market stall, and I covered my brother's mouth as soldiers marched past us in rows. 2 of them dug through the shop across from us and started fighting each other over 1 tin of milk. My jaw dropped because I realized that even the soldiers taking our city were starving, and there was no food left for anybody. At dark, we crept to the only road out of town, because if there was no food left inside it, we had to find some outside. But soldiers had blocked it with trucks, and they were searching everyone leaving. We were trapped. My brother went quiet on my hip, too hungry to even cry, and that scared me more than the soldiers, until an engine roared in the sky above. A soldier screamed, "Get down!" But I carried my brother straight into the open field everyone had run from. My mom screamed, "Amara, stop!" I kept going and screamed, "The engine is low and slow. It's a food plane." White parachutes bloomed over our heads, and crates slammed into the field around us, splitting open, spilling rice and silver tins. The whole city poured out of the streets, and the soldiers left the road wide open, sprinting past us to fight the crowd for tins. My brother stuffed his mouth with food, and me and my mom grabbed enough food for a month. We filled our rice sack to the top and walked straight out of town past the empty trucks, because the men guarding the road were too hungry to resist eating the food supplies. I lifted my hands to the sky one more time. Alhamdulillah. Food supply planes finally flew. Me and my big brother were counting stars when I asked, for my 6th birthday, can you take the glowy stars outside and put them in my room? He weakly reached his arm out and coughed. I'll make you a deal. If you can sleep with the lights off and stop being scared of the dark, then I'll build it. Mom called from the porch. Justin, come inside. It's time to take your medicine. He flicked my forehead and jumped down. Get practicing, bug. I shot up, ready to do anything to make this happen. That night, I dragged my blanket into the closet to practice. But as soon as I turned off my flashlight, I saw the coat hangers come to life. So I ran out and knocked down Justin's door. Justin, can you sleep on the floor with me? He agreed and grabbed his cane to walk to my room. And in the morning, I shook him awake. So now you build the sky, right? He smiled with his eyes half shut. Yeah, bug, when I've got time. For months, I'd run to my room looking for stars on my ceiling, but they were never there. Eventually, I thought he didn't care anymore, until one night in January, when my hallway flashed with red and blue lights. The paramedics carried Justin down the stairs, and nobody would look at me. Mommy, what's going on? She blinked back her tears. Your brother's in a special place now, honey. A week later, I was sleeping in his bed when my mom knocked. Follow me to your room. I pushed my door open, and my whole ceiling was stars. Hundreds packed edge to edge, with one bare gap dead center. My legs went weak. My mom smiled weakly. Me and him snuck up here for months while you were at school. He finished it 2 weeks ago and was saving it for your birthday. I know he would have wanted me to show you. I pointed at the middle. He didn't get to finish it. My mom shook her head. He did, and she opened her fist around one last star. He said the middle one's yours, bug. He said you're the bit that finishes it. I climbed on my bed and pressed it into the gap, and his deal finally made sense because the stars needed the dark to glow, and that was the darkest time of my life. I flicked.
Here, Mum and Dad.
My son left his phone behind, and as soon as I grabbed it, he got a text. I got the rope and duct tape. The van is ready. She won't see it coming. My heart started slamming because my son was at his crush's house, so I kept scrolling. Leah's mom leaves at 7. Park behind the fence so she can't spot it. I immediately ran to my car because I had 10 minutes to stop whatever my son was about to do. I called Leah's dad. This is Ryan's mom. Get Leah inside and lock the doors. I think my son's about to do something terrible to your daughter. The line went dead, and I ran every red light hoping I was wrong. But when I got there, the gray van sat behind her fence, right where the texts promised. I heard a scream in the backyard, and I immediately sprinted for the side gate. Her dad stood in the yard with his shotgun leveled at 2 boys kneeling with their hands up. One of them was my son. I jumped between the barrel and my son. Wait, it was me! I called you! Let them talk! My son and his friend were both staring at something behind me, and when I turned around, the rope slipped and the sheet dropped open. One word in gold tape. Prom? There was never a kidnapping. I gasped and realized the rope was for a banner. The van was full of balloons, and the only weapon there was the one my call brought. Leah flew off the porch and grabbed Ryan's face. Yes, you idiot, yes! Her dad lowered the shotgun and I grabbed his shoulders. Next time, lead with the balloons instead of threats. My son left his phone behind, and as soon as I grabbed it, he got a text. I got the rope and duct tape. I was laying out towels for my home birth when my front door flew open and 3 masked men pointed guns straight at me. Where's the money and jewelry? Now! My hands flew to my belly. Please, I'm about to have a baby. Don't hurt us. My body started shaking, so I started taking deep breaths because my doctor had warned me too much stress during labor could kill us both. But my body only shook harder because this baby was all I had in the world, and I couldn't afford a hospital visit. So I held my belly tight and prayed we'd both make it out alive. Then the doorbell rang, and my midwife stepped inside for the delivery, freezing the second she saw the men with guns. One of the men spun and fired a shot right past her head, and she dropped to the floor screaming. The bang tore through me, and a warm gush ran down my leg. The stress forced me into labor, the exact thing my doctor said could kill us. I panicked as the men tore through my house, ripping out drawers and stuffing my expensive jewelry into bags, while the first contraction folded me in half. The midwife crawled to the door and dialed 911, then looked back at me with tears in her eyes. I'm sorry, I have kids at home. Then she crawled out the front door. I was alone on the floor, gripping my belly, when sirens screamed in the distance, and the men bolted out the back. Another contraction ripped through me, and I forced myself up, stumbling out the front door. A paramedic caught me before I hit the ground. Ma'am, the baby's coming now. We need to act quick. They rushed me onto a stretcher, and as the doors slammed shut, all I could think was that the stress was killing my baby. They rushed me into the emergency room, doctors shouting as they told me to push. I pushed and screamed until I felt him leave my body, and the room went silent. The doctor lifted my son, and her face froze. I screamed, "What? What's wrong?" He wasn't crying, and my heart stopped. But then, a tiny wail broke the silence, and I burst into tears. The doctor turned to me, still shaken. His cord was wrapped around his neck. If you'd given birth at home, you both would have died. The robbers took everything I had that night, but they're the only reason I'm holding my son. I was laying out
Not.
My friend slid her phone across the table. I tapped the dare before I finished reading it, and 20 minutes later, I was running the makeup counter at Sephora. The checkbox always worked on me. My friends knew it, which is how they'd already gotten me banned from a steakhouse downtown. This one said to convince the Sephora staff I was the new makeup artist they hired. I walked in ahead of everyone. The lead artist was already frazzled, and the second I said the agency sent me, she exhaled like I'd pulled her off a ledge. "Oh, thank God, we've got a birthday party booking in 20 minutes. She handed me an apron and pointed me to a station. My friends trickled in as customers, and I gave gave them full looks, so by the third face, the staff were drifting over just to watch. The dare was supposed to take 5 minutes, but an hour in, I had a line. The next client was a hard one. Wrong undertone, couldn't sit still, kept demanding a look that was going to fight her face, but I talked her into something better, and by the end, she was turning her head in the mirror like she'd never seen herself before. Someone at the register called over. "Hey, what's your employee number?" My stomach dropped, but I kept the brush moving. "Agency hasn't set me up yet. They said to flag it for the manager." She shrugged and went back to her screen. My friends were gripping each other's arms, trying not to lose it. The manager walked in right before close and stopped in the middle of the floor. She took in my station, 3 finished looks lined up in the mirror, a walk-in in my chair, my friends arranged around me like regulars. She pulled the lead artist aside, who just shrugged and pointed at me. The manager walked over. "We don't use an agency," she said, calm as anything. "I do all the hiring myself. I'd been telling everyone all day to flag it for the manager, and the manager was the one person who knew there was no agency at all." I set the brush down, untied the apron, and left with my friends. I was banned from every Sephora in the country. Worth it. The next day, we were back at the mall when my friend slid her phone across the food court table. I tapped it before I finished reading. My friend slid her phone across the table. I tapped the dare before I finished reading it, and 20 minutes later, I was running the makeup counter at Sephora. The checkbox always worked on me. My friends knew it, which is how they'd already gotten me banned from a steakhouse downtown. This one said to convince the Sephora staff I was the new makeup artist they hired. I walked in ahead of everyone. The lead artist was already frazzled, and the second I said the agency sent me, she exhaled like I'd pulled her off a ledge. "Oh, thank God, we've got a birthday party booking in 20 minutes. She handed me an apron and pointed me to a station. My friends trickled in as customers, and when my daughter finally learned the guitar, I finally understood what she'd actually been doing all along. My 12-year-old tore open her birthday present and saw the electric guitar she'd been asking for months, and her eyes lit up. She pointed at her poster of my dad with his rock band and said, "Now I can be just like Grandpa." She plugged it into her amp and started enthusiastically playing random notes while the whole house shook. My dad was old and could barely open his eyes anymore, but he still smiled hearing her mess up the notes. For months, she played the guitar at full volume every day, and my dad's hands shook trying to teach her the fretboard. I begged them to turn it down, but she just kept rocking, and his hearing was so bad, this was the only way he heard anything. She practiced the same thing over and over every day, but I couldn't understand what it was because she couldn't play 2 seconds without messing up. When my dad came over one day, instead of teaching her, he sat outside her bedroom door, listening with his eyes closed and a tear rolling down his face. 2 days later, he passed away, and his last words to my daughter were, "Promise me you'll play it." She nodded through her tears and let go of his hand. She played her guitar quieter after that, but never stopped. Always that same thing I still didn't recognize. On the 1-year anniversary of my dad's death, our family gathered at our house. I was emotional and trying to hold it together, and that's when my daughter walked downstairs with her guitar slung over her shoulder and tears in her eyes. She plugged into the amp in the living room and started playing. I immediately dropped my glass and burst into tears. It was my dad's famous guitar solo, the most known piece of music he'd ever created. I realized she'd been learning it from the moment she got that guitar. She played it perfectly, and when she finished, she looked up at me with tears in her eyes and said, "I told you I could be just like Grandpa." When my daughter
I get 30 RB.
I walked into my sister's hospital room and found her hospital aide pinching her breathing tube shut, smiling as the monitor started to spike. I slapped her hand away. "That's my sister! Are you trying to kill her?" But she grinned wider. "She's in a coma, sweetie. She can't feel a thing, and she can't tell anyone, so there's nothing you can do." My fists clenched because my sister protected me my whole life, and now she was the helpless one. So I kissed her forehead and hurried to the front desk to report the aide, but they rolled their eyes. An aide would never do that. "Stop lying and go back to your room." I walked back toward her room, defeated, knowing I was the only one who believed my sister was in danger. But when I opened the door, the aide had her hand clamped over my sister's tube again, pressing harder this time, laughing under her breath as a tear slid down my sister's cheek. My heart broke. She could feel it. "Stop!" I screamed. I tackled her to the ground, but my sister's lips were already turning blue, her whole body shaking as the monitor flatlined. A nurse sprinted in. "She's suffocating. We're losing her." The aide pointed at me before I could open my mouth. "She's been hurting her. I tried to stop it." The nurse turned to me with pure disgust. "You're banned from visiting." She called for security, and security grabbed my arms. I kicked and screamed, but they hauled me through the doors, and the aide smiled and waved as my sister started seizing on the bed. I couldn't protect her, and I had no idea if I'd ever see her alive again. But then later that day, the hospital called. "It's an emergency. You need to come in now." My hands started shaking because I was sure my sister was gone. I sprinted through the doors they'd banned me from, braced for the worst. But when I reached her room, my sister was sitting up, awake. A doctor stood beside her, stunned. The seizure was so severe it shocked her out of the coma. Before I could even move, my sister lifted a shaking finger toward the aide in the corner. She tried to kill me and blamed my sister. She said I couldn't move or speak, but I heard and felt everything. The room went silent, and the aide's face went white. Security moved in, but I got there first and drove my elbow into her chest, forcing the air from her lungs like she did to my sister. As she gasped, I leaned down. "There's nothing you can do about it." I walked into my sister's hospital room and found her hospital aide pinching her breathing tube shut, smiling as the monitor started. I was streaming to 43 viewers from inside the tube of the big red slide at the water park when suddenly the lights all turned off. Me and my boys exchanged glances with each other as a chain scraped through the front gate. My boy Moss whispered, "If security finds us, that's breaking and entering." I smirked. "We have 8 hours until he comes back. Let's make the most of it." Moss rubbed his hands together like an evil fly, grabbed my selfie stick with the stream, and sprinted to the tallest drop slide. "Check me out, chat." He stood up on the platform rail and backflipped into the catch pool. I silently burst out laughing because for a second, we completely forgot about security. We drifted the lazy river next, 3 tubes hooked at the ankles, floating past dead neon under the open sky. My boy Dario grabbed my hand and joked, "So romantic." I shoved him off me, and I was pushing him under by the shoulders when a light turned on in the office window over the gates. Moss pulled us under the bridge. The window went dark, and nobody spoke for a full lap. The wave pool roared to life on its own, and none of us were anywhere near the switches. I fumbled with the panel to shut it off, but the waves kept rolling. I whispered into the camera, "We might be cooked, chat." A flashlight beam hit us from across the deck and pinned all 3 of us against the wall. Nobody ran because there was nowhere left to run. The beam walked closer until I could see him. It was an older guy with a buzz cut and a ring of keys on his hip. He clicked the flashlight off and turned his phone around. Our stream was playing on his screen. "I was the one who turned those lights off. I've been in your stream all day." I gasped because we'd spent 8 hours hiding from the man who was watching us hide. He kicked off his shoes. 22 years of night shifts, and I've never once gotten to go on the slides for free. Move. He slid down the red tube. When he got to the bottom, he held up 2 fingers. "You were never here." Then he turned the whole park back on, and for 1 hour, there were 4 of us. I ended the stream from the parking lot. I was They got on stage and started singing karaoke, but when I heard the opening melody, I instantly freaked out. It sounded exactly like the song I'd written 10 years ago, the song that only I knew. The singer was staring directly at me like they were taunting me, but their hood was up and shadows covered their face so I couldn't see them. The singer pointed at me, and my friends looked at the stage with horrified expressions. I stood up and bolted out of the bar, clutching the table knife in my hand in case they followed me, and I needed to protect myself. But when I opened the door, the bouncer stopped me and asked why I had jumped off the stage. I looked down at my hand and saw the microphone in my palm, and the bouncer pulled up footage of me singing my song on stage, then suddenly pointing at air before screaming and running out. The chair I had sat in was empty the entire time. They got on stage and started singing karaoke, but when I heard the opening melody, I instantly freaked out. It sounded exactly like the song I'd written 10 years ago.